Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Today we're talking about Disney, and they're doomed. Disney's expected to announce terrible earnings this week. The business continues to have challenges, particularly with their streaming service, but they've got problems everywhere, and we're going to hear about it in detail this week. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you. I'm trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so if you can subscribe, please do subscribe. Coming from Fortune, it's not just Disney losing customers. Nearly 2 million people stopped subscribing to Warner Bros. Discovery's streaming service called Max. This is true, although Warner Bros. Discovery explained, well, they're merging their HBO Max streaming service with their Discovery streaming service and calling it one thing, Max. Now they're allowing people to continue to subscribe separately on Discovery if they want to, and basically what they're doing is making it easier for them to market, promote it, and manage it, and that's why they have one brand to focus on and not two separate services or 4 or 5 separate streaming services. So they did lose 2 million subscribers, but as Zaslav's team has explained in their recent earnings call, they were expecting to lose about what they lost. They'll deal with it. They're not losing $3 billion a year like Disney is, or Paramount is, or Comcast is. Disney is losing billions. Other companies are losing billions. This is the really interesting part of the article. Disney's moment of truth next week. Offering the convenience of at-home or on-the-go streaming has been the industry's natural answer to the shift in consumer habits. And at least in theory, selling subscriptions comes with the added benefit of recurring revenue that is supposedly stable and predictable in an age of volatility. But in practice, the economics aren't holding up. Yet no one apart from Netflix, the first to market with their streaming service, has been able to escape the rivers of red ink, meaning losing money. Quote, we estimate they are all losing money with a combined 2022 operating loss well over $10 billion versus Netflix $5 to $6 billion in annual operating profit, Netflix said in October about the competition. At least Warner Bros. Discovery's streaming division managed to nearly break even with a negligible, meaning a very little, $3 million loss, a $500 million improvement over the previous year's period. But the company still predicts that only its U.S. streaming business, which accounts for little more than half its streaming customers, will be profitable this year. Now, streaming executives have raised the white flag in capitulation, with Disney leading the retreat. After Disney incurred over $10 billion in cumulative streaming losses, and it's really over $11 billion, since launching Disney Plus in 2019, the company pledged last August to introduce a new lower price streaming tier supported by ads. Then in February, it unveiled $3 billion in production budget cuts. Finally, Disney even announced an impairment charge, which means like a one-time loss, of up to $1.8 billion to reflect the cost of removing shows from its streaming platform that increased the cost of its cloud hosting bills, including some of its own original programming. So Willow was canceled. A couple of their silly series were canceled. They canceled a movie that they spent $53 million on, this Kids in Space thing. But they need to do that. When the shows aren't being watched, they need to let the public know, hey, these were failures, and they need to pull them off the service. And the reason they pull them off the service, as they said here, is to save on hosting bills, but also to reflect that you can't say that when you spend $53 million on a movie and basically nobody watches it, that it's still worth $53 million. It's worth what Haunted Mansion is worth. Practically nothing. They need to take the loss. Investors will find out just how bad Disney Plus is doing when the company reports fiscal third quarter earnings on August 9th. But executives already warned its streaming business will likely see operating losses widen by around $100 million, so an additional $100 million over the previous quarter to around $750 million, owing to a shift in the timing of marketing expenses. So Disney is expected and projected now to lose $750 million in its third quarter on its streaming service. Doesn't sound very good. Here's what Disney's been focused on. So the Haunted Mansion director, Justin Simien, wants to adapt Michael Jackson's Captain EO Disney attraction into a feature film. Sure, that sounds like a good use of $150, $200 million. Just throw another $100 million on it for marketing. No, Disney can't afford to do stupid stuff like this anymore. Now, years ago, when people actually cared about the Marvel projects before they all went woke, this kind of thing would have been phenomenal. It would have been exciting. Disney releases historic MCU movie TV crossover trailer. The concept that you would mix film with TV and maintain continuity would have been really exciting to Marvel people. But they managed to get rid of all the Marvel characters and all of the Marvel style and storytelling that anyone would potentially care about. So it doesn't matter that they're going to be releasing a historic MCU movie TV crossover trailer. Literally, no one on the planet cares about it. As opposed to when they had Avengers going and it was really working, everyone who cared about Marvel would have cared about it. They would have gotten a lot of benefit from something like that, but now they're getting nothing. From Business Insider, polling suggests that defeating woke policies in schools and government is not a priority for most Republican voters. So here's what's going on with this. DeSantis actually was very effective at fighting with Disney in Florida. Disney is going to lose their case against Florida with trying to keep control of their special district. There's just no way they can get it. So what the woke media is trying to do is to get DeSantis to give up on battling with Disney before the court makes some very important decisions. Disney's going to lose. There's no way they can win. So now you see polls coming out saying that, okay, Republican parents don't care if they push the transgender agenda or if they push sexuality on kindergartners and try to get kindergartners to consider different sexual identities. And that's not really a viable thing. Parents don't actually care about that. Of course, that's not going to work because parents really do care about that. Recently, another big win in Florida against Disney and their woke agenda was DeSantis' new board that controls the Reedy Creek district. They got rid of all the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which are programs that favor certain races, that favor certain genders for contracts, that force the people that they do contracts with to employ people of certain races or certain genders. And if they don't, they would even not pay those companies for work that was performed. I mean, really ridiculous stuff that is completely illegal. However, Disney was doing it. Well, they're not doing it anymore. So now you see in all the woke media, in NBC News, in The Guardian, in USA Today, they feature DeSantis-controlled Disney World District, DeSantis-appointed Disney Governing District, DeSantis-controlled Disney World Oversight District, slashes diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Why do they keep mentioning DeSantis-controlled? Because they're in a complete panic in woke media because he's done a great job of terrorizing Disney for trying to push their woke agenda on Florida children without the permission of their parents. Coming from the Orlando Sentinel, DeSantis' retaliation against Disney hurts Florida, former governors and lawmakers say. Now, this is a recent brief that was filed by a bunch of people that got together to try to figure out how can we support Disney, because if we don't support Disney and we don't get incredibly lucky, DeSantis is going to blow them away in court, saying Governor DeSantis has followed the autocratic examples of governments in Russia and China. A group of mostly Republican former high-level government officials has called the Florida governor's takeover of Disney World's governing district, quote, severely damaging to the political, social, and economic fabric of the state. All the establishment people are completely freaking out because DeSantis has got a very simple approach and it's very effective. The group of former governors, U.S. House members, and presidential administration officials filed a friend of the court amicus brief on Wednesday in Disney's federal lawsuit against DeSantis and his appointees to the board of Disney World's governing district. Disney's lawsuit says the Republican governor violated the company's free speech rights by taking over the district after Disney publicly opposed Florida's so-called, quote, don't say gay law, which protected children from sexualization in kindergarten through third grade. How could you object to something like that? How could anyone think you could violate parents' rights and not allow parents to say, no, you can't sexualize my children? So the government of Florida was forced to pass a law to protect children and parents' rights for children in the state. It's their own children. The group's goal in filing the brief last week is to demonstrate how the path the governor has chosen is corrosive to the form of democracy envisioned by the Constitution, and to re-emphasize this court's critical constitutional role in curbing the excesses of governance by retaliation, they said in a court filing. Specifically, the group said that DeSantis' actions harm Florida economically because firms are being dissuaded from doing business in Florida since they could be subject to the governor's retaliatory whims if they ever voiced disapproval over his policies. The group noted that Disney scrapped plans for a $1 billion campus in Orlando that would have relocated 2,000 jobs from Southern California following a year of attacks by DeSantis. That is so disingenuous, because that program was not going to happen unless Bob Chapek stayed the CEO of Disney. That program was a plan that Bob Chapek had, not one that Bob Iger had. And in addition, it cost them additional money to do. It's a complete and total misrepresentation, and not true at all that Disney was going forward with that under Bob Iger. DeSantis' employees took control of the Disney World District earlier this year, following a year-long feud between the company and DeSantis. The fight began last year after Disney, beset by significant pressure internally and externally, publicly opposed a state law banning classroom lessons on sexual orientation and gender identity in early grades, a policy critics called "Don't Say Gay." In addition to that, which is always left out of these articles, Bob Chapek specifically said he would go and he would be fighting the state of Florida to get the law repealed in opposition to the government of the state, in opposition to the legislature of the state, and in opposition to the people of the state of Florida to try to force the sexual programming on these children in grades kindergarten through third grade. How are you supposed to respond to something like that? Particularly if you have not a regular business relationship. I wouldn't cancel existing contracts, but if you have some sort of premium, special, advantaged relationship with the state government, of course that's subject to the governor and the legislature's ongoing approval. If you choose to take on the state government and say, no, we need to be able to push sexual orientation programming on the kindergarten through third grade population, and we don't care what parents say, and you think you're going to maintain a special privileged relationship with the government? Not one that Universal has, not one that everyone else in this state has. You're going to maintain that privileged relationship while you're literally attacking the population and the children of the state? Of course you're not going to be able to maintain that. All of these responses really show, of course Disney's going to lose this, and they're going to lose it badly. Bob Iger only wanted to buy time. He's been able to buy time with these lawsuits and trying to delay as much as possible the inevitable of when the state of Florida wins these cases. That was his plan. He didn't want to have to admit right up front, as soon as he came in, yeah, we lost this district. And then in the meantime, just this week, we're going to see Disney's financial results, which are also looking to be pretty terrible. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.